I was given what I thought was just another e-commerce guide. But by page 50, I realized this book isn't about selling products online at all. It's about the cultural forces that drive buying decisions. And that's exactly why every e-commerce leader needs to read this. Look, we obsess over conversion rates and profit margins. But what if those metrics are just the tip of the iceberg? What if there's something so much more powerful underneath that we're completely missing? Lore isn't an e-commerce book. It's a book about how stories become currencies and how the smartest brands are mining that currency while their competitors are still counting clicks. What is this book exactly about? And so in the next few minutes, I'm going to give you an overview, a book review about the most groundbreaking, most fascinating, mind-bending conversations that are shared in the pages of this book. I think you're going to find this very interesting. Here's the core idea that changed everything for me. Your brand isn't just selling products. It's aligning with the stories that already live in your customer's mind. The authors call this lore, and they explain it perfectly on page 14. Lore is an invisible force, a thread of sorts that shapes our world and connects us through stories, passed from person to person. Year over year, lore weaves the fabric of our beliefs. Think about it this way. The most successful brands don't create entirely new stories. They weave this story of life experiences, or as the authors call it, this red thread through their products to myths, classics, and the archetypes that have captivated people for thousands of years. Take Stanley mugs, Fenty, Crocs, just to name a few. It's not about clever marketing copy. It's about understanding that customers don't just buy our products. They're buying into narratives or stories that help them make sense of who they are. And here's why this matters more than your conversion rate. When you nail this connection, price becomes irrelevant. Features become secondary. You're not competing in the marketplace anymore. You're occupying space in your customers' minds and identity. We've seen it happen time and time again. And so just to re-emphasize this point about this world connection, this is the first of 3 quick takeaways that I think you're going to find highly relevant. As a super practical example in the book, take Catbird. So instead of trying to educate their customers about their brand story, they tapped into something that is going to be meaningful to their audience. Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake Ballet. Their customers, their intended audience, already has this familiarity, and thus it's an instant connection. The authors call this world building, or we could look at it as world matching, and it's genius because it shortcuts the trust building process. When customers see familiar cultural cues in your brand, their brain goes, I know this place and I am safe here. For your business, ask yourself, what world do your customers already inhabit? What stories are they already telling themselves? And then figure out how to authentically connect your product to those existing narratives. And here's another thing that will mess with your head, like mine. Most of what we think are best practices in e-commerce are simply copying what everyone else does. The authors point out that digital marketplaces don't just reflect our culture, they actively shape it. So why does every online store look basically the same? We got a header, a sidebar sometimes, certainly a menu, product grid, checkout button, make sure that's super visible. We've all intrinsically agreed that these are the rules. Could it be that these rules are actually limiting our sales? Maybe not today, but in 5 years' time? Walmart is an example of trying to break out of this box, not on Walmart.com, but their Realms product, 3D experiential shopping. They even put games in there to increase the entertainment value. While this is years out from being a mainstay, It demonstrates a willingness to try something new. So the question isn't whether your customers want a better shopping experience, it's whether you're brave enough to give them something they didn't know they wanted. Sometimes those biggest breakthroughs come from breaking those patterns that everyone treats as indisputable. What rule are you following just because everyone else does? What if you tested breaking it? And here's the final game changer. The most successful brands, they don't just sell online, they create reasons for customers to connect with each other in person. The authors make this brilliant point. You can have the slickest website in the world, but you'll never replicate the feeling of belonging that comes from a real human connection. So smart brands flip the script. Instead of trying to replace community with technology, they use technology to facilitate real-world community. Think of none other than Pokemon Go. It used digital tools to get people walking around parks, meeting strangers, and sharing experiences. Players weren't just engaging with an app, they were forming friendships and long-lasting memories. For e-commerce brands, this could look like Lululemon's running events, or REI, where you can meet other outdoor aficionados. The question isn't how to keep people on your website longer, it's how to become part of their lives. When you nail that, your customers don't just buy from you, they become part of your story or lore. As we wrap this up, who should read this book? You, the e-commerce manager, the CMO, the CEO, and yes, even you, the CIO. This book steps outside our obsession over numbers, stats, to look at the big picture of what drives these numbers. And that's incredibly relevant. But I gotta say, what makes this book even cooler and genuinely amazing is that it was written and designed by artists in our space, the e-commerce space. This is a genuine coffee table masterpiece. When guests come over, they start flipping through this book, and they'll ask you, so what's this about? You get to answer and impress them. This is what I get to work with every single day. They'll find that interesting. The only thing I have to warn you about is this isn't your typical business book. It's super intellectual, and it's going to make you think, what do they mean by this? For me, I find this type of thought-provoking stimuli highly beneficial as it gets us to see the big picture and identify grander applications. I would give it, if I have to boil it down into a rating system of stars, a 4.5 out of 5 rating. I highly recommend this book. So where do you find it? futurecommerce.com. Pick up your copy. There's no promo code because this is not sponsored. To be frank, folks over at Future Commerce have no idea I'm making this video. But remember what I said from the start. While your competitors are counting clicks, the smartest brands like yours are mining the currency of story, and lore shows you exactly how to do that.